Pat has been in ministry for many, 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 many years, and you would think that some of what he does here on a daily basis would have become perfunctory to him. But I can tell you that he used to call daily the prayer counseling center to find out how many people came to Christ that day. When he would hear that number and I would come in to do the show with him the next day, he would say with childlike enthusiasm, 600 people came to the Lord yesterday when we did this show. And, you know, I used to say to him, Pat, wherever I travel, I wish you could know it doesn't matter what country I'm in. It doesn't matter what I'm there for. Always, always there are people who come up to me and say, I found the Lord through watching Pat Robertson on the 700 Club. And I doubt he could ever grasp the magnitude of that number. Pat and Dee Dee really were quite a remarkable couple. I saw many times Dee Dee standing and having his back in some difficult things that, you know, he went through over the years, and there were plenty of them. I mean, you're not a voice in a culture without being attacked from every side you can imagine. And I saw in him a tremendous respect and regard for Dee Dee. She's been quite a quiet presence on this campus over the years, and I think that she was a great sounding board for Pat. You know, when you're the person at the top of an organization, sometimes it's hard to find somebody who's going to be that objective sounding board for you. Dee Dee was that for Pat, and Pat had the greatest regard for her as the mother of his children and the keeper of his home. You know, I think one of the fondest memories I have of him is just hearing him over the years talk about her. You know, Dee Dee went through some very difficult struggles in her health and issues over the years, and he had tremendous compassion for what she was going through. A lesser man could have gotten very caught up in the bigness of the issues here and not been able to get to that place. But he watched her walk with strength through those places and had the greatest respect for her, greatest love for her. I mean, when you say, you asked me earlier, what was one of my fondest memories, I think it would be the two of them dancing. You know, at some of the hallmark anniversaries that we've had here, that, you know, you could just see what they were like when they first met each other. You know, that they just were very attached to each other. And I think also to hear Pat talk about his children. I mean, he's truly, truly incredibly proud of every one of his kids. And they're all so different. You know, everyone is doing something incredibly different. But to see that dad, that father heart in him when he talked about his kids that is really wonderful. Well, having the opportunity to have sat next to him for so many years, he loved when I would come back from being somewhere in the world and tell him what things were happening, how OB was making a difference, how people's lives were being touched. He had a tremendous, compassionate heart for people in need. You know, Pat was such a voice in our culture for righteousness, and a voice in politics for righteousness too, really, that often I think people heard that and maybe wouldn't have known about the tenderness of his heart. But he was a man who really saw need and was touched by it and moved to do something to make a difference. There would be a lot of people who would watch our program and hear about Operation Blessing and not know that it was the Lord speaking to Pat that created Operation Blessing. It was him in his quiet time with the Lord, which he has faithfully every day, being taken to Isaiah 58 and challenged to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, take the poor in, care for them. And out of that, You know, God, when God calls us to something, it's like he births something in our heart and quickens it to us. And I saw that in Pat with Operation Blessing. He is the one who looked always to expand and extend the tent pegs, if you will, of that ministry, to make it more than it was when it started. And I mean, even today, it's not just, you know, lots of times people, when you do as much as we do internationally, are critical of, but what about here at home? But Pat was always, always compassionate first for his own, for America, for our people here. And I mean, to this day, tons of food every month go out across this country to hungry families. When there's disaster relief needed, I mean, OB is first on the spot and last to leave. And he is the one who was the catalyst for all of that, the one saying, you know, get the job done. If Pat could say something to all of us, I think it would be carry on. I think it would be press on. I think it would be get the job done. I mean, he was a guy who saw the big picture but took the next step. And you know, I think the thing that inspires all of us was sometimes he took the step when he didn't know how it was going to manifest itself. We're going to be called as believers to stand up for the principles of what we believe, to provide what's needed to get the job done at a time where there might not be the same benefits there were in the past for that. And, you know, that might be our test. Are we willing? You know, that scripture Pat always quoted, you know, may your people be willing in the day of your power. And yes, I mean, may the answer from all of us be, God, here we are. Send us, use us. We're here.